You know, I always forget to do the little intro thing, right? Right? So, hi, I'm Clue, and this is my data pack, Runechant. Right, it's work in progress, and we're currently going over the custom weapons, of which today's Affinity is Enchanted. So the way it works is all of these are essentially making use of the trim system that Mojang has implemented to allow me to enable custom weapons off of the world material. So the lower half of the upgrade is usually the material slots, but in this case I'm using it for custom weapon effects on different weapons. Now we have the models for our pickaxe, right? So Enchanted pickaxe, Enchanted claw or fishing rod, Enchanted shovel, axe, sword, and hoe, all of which have their own abilities that trigger on different mechanics. So we have chance on block to trigger, chance on defeating a mob to trigger, chance on, not chance, just trigger effects by sneaking, should always put these over here, trigger effects by sprinting, and then on taking damage, right? So we have all these different clauses, and each clause essentially creates its own unique effects. We also need our helper husks, right? Because I like doing this in daytime, so husks are nice. The other thing we do have to do is swap over to survival, because Enchanted's a little bit different compared to all the rest. That is not how you time set, right? Because it's time set, not set time. So Enchanted is a lot more utility based than a lot of the other custom weapons. So for instance, the sprinting, right? Oh, not throw. Thank you. If we double tap sprint, right? We dash forward and we leave this particle effect cloud, of which it gives speed, haste, and strength. So obviously you're not going to give it yourself. You're going to, have an ally or someone nearby, and you're going to sprint through them and give them the buffs. That's the easiest way to think about it. Okay. Then we have the other aspect, right? So because it's enchanted, and the whole thing is the color palette, if you couldn't guess, right, is to do with the experience. So all these weapons are basically built around farming or generating experience, hence why we need to be in survival, so we can actually see the experience bar. My health is a little worse for wear, so we will give ourselves some saturation. 1 second, 99, that should do it. Okay, so now let's put some husks down and let's go through the effects. We'll start with the attack. The other big thing to note is all these effects are based on luck. That's when they say chance, right? So depending on how much luck we have, determines the rate at which they proc. Currently, I've given myself max luck, so they trigger 100% of the time. So on every hit, we can now trigger the effect, okay? Which is, as you can see, filling up our experience bar. It's doing a little bit of damage, and I'm also in survival. We need to give ourselves some husk eggs. I should have given myself 64, right? So yeah, so every time we attack, it is doing a little bit extra damage, and it's also boosting our experience, because it's generating more experience orbs. Okay, so it's really useful for farming, not so much for just attacking and defeating mobs. Big thing to note, so it's 8 attack damage, right? So how much are we doing? 1, 2, no, it's still 3 hits, so you can't really tell the difference in damage, but it might do AoE damage, I can't quite remember. Yes, it does do AoE damage, which is good to know, right? Because they're exploding in experience, that's all gimmick. And then the other one we have is the on defeat mobs. We also need to give ourselves back some saturation, since we have hunger, and I would generally like to have full HP. Okay, so this is when we actually defeat a mob, so I'll take a couple hits, that's fine. A few more. There we go. Okay, bit more experience than what he'd normally drop. Should also do a particle effect. Curiously. Let's try again. F5, because it should do a particle effect on us. It is not. Let me look at my function. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Once we get a husk, there should be enough particles that we can see it first person. Sort of. Right. We dropped a little cloud and we exploded a bit. Let me do the survival thing, because I'm not thinking like a survival player. Let's just chuck a bunch down here. Right. And we will grab out our axe and we will try to hit the same one over and over again. And there you go, we can see the particle effect. Ooh. Right. We can hear the proc, and we're getting a ton of experience. In fact, they all succumbed to the experience explosion. So it does an AoE detonation again. That's why we're getting so many particles. And then also anyone who gets caught in the AoE explosion is then generating more experience. So if we trigger him, right, we're getting a bunch of experience just from attacking the mobs. So yeah, utility-wise, this is all about farming. I am going to also chuck in ways to spend experience to balance things out. I think what I want to end up doing is having a few extra additives you can chuck on weapons, right? So it might have a bonus effect, but it will cost luck every time it procs or something like that. I think that could be quite fun. Okay, then we have blocking and taking damage. So I do actually need a shield. I spell it right? Yes, it's right there. Okay, so shield on our offhand, and we'll go with the blocking. So every time we block, something should happen. We block, there you go, he gets a burst of experience. We're getting a little bit of experience. We're getting speed, haste, and hungers from him. So we're getting speed and haste. So it's similar to the effect of the sprinting, but this time it's triggering on us, which is a little bit nice, right? So you can block, gain some experience, and run away. Yeah, very little. But, you know, it's still useful. Did I tell that? No. How did that flatten? Am I missing something? I didn't swap to the shovel. I'm on a hoe. Oh, you can. Path and farmland. Sorry, I haven't played survival in quite some time. Which is, well, it was actually the whole purpose of this project was to eventually, you know, play survival with some RPG effects. I need to heal myself, so we're going back to creative. Effects give us instant health, please. 199, that should be max. We'll go back to survival, and that way we can show off the other effect, which is on taking damage. Okay, so we don't need the shield anymore. And every time you hit us, right, more eruptions in experience. This time we gain resistance. Actually, it's costing us experience, so I should up the level of resistance we're getting. So it's a little buff or defensive perk, and was sort of me testing what I eventually want to do with the other abilities. Like I said, I want them to cost experience as they proc. So I will upgrade the amount of resistance you get off that proc too, because I think, we're losing a decent chunk of experience for resistance 1. But we're actually healing. Never mind. I'm not going to upgrade the resistance, right? So we're healing. If we experience set all, we'll go to 2. No, that is not how you do it. Right, levels. Yeah, so now we're out of experience, we're taking damage, we're gaining experience. So that's the counterbalance. And then we lose it, we gain it, we lose it. The rate is too even. Right, we're gaining almost equivalent to what we're losing. Doesn't quite make sense. We're gaining it from the Affinity book. So I don't think I've explained that in this video. Essentially, every time you use one of these weapons, it tags all the mobs nearby with Affinity, and then when you re-trigger the effects, it triggers the Affinity perk, or the Affinity bonus, which in this case just generates experience. Too much experience by the looks of it. Okay, and then lastly, do we have a lastly? Or was that it? I think that was it. Right, we've gone over the models, we've gone over the different effects. I have not noted that you can dual wield, right? So we can have all the effects active. So right now we can sprint. Oh, if I was on the fishing rod. Right, so we can leave that trail, and we can use the ground pound shift attack. Which actually, sorry, I have not shown off the ground pound. Have I? So we shift, does a little damage. It should also generate experience. Yeah. Again, this is more utility focused. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage, hence why we're losing. But it does generate a decent chunk of experience, so that we can utilize a few other things, which I need to scale down. I'm going to scale down. I'll scale it down, and then we'll see how it feels. Okay, so hopefully it's balanced a little bit better. I've tweaked the numbers. We'll go with the damage, because that seems to be the big equalizer, right? If we are maintaining the perk or the bonus from it, more so than the experience we're gathering. Okay, come at me. So I think I upped it to minus 100 points. Right, so it put us to level 0, and we're not gaining that much experience back. You should proc it, perfect, so we're back to 0, and then we're gaining experience. So I think that's a little bit better, because it is quite the perk. The big thing, though, around balancing it is, obviously, I don't want it to feel horrible if you're at a high level, because you are requiring more points to reach the high level. So, for instance, at level 30, what does it do? It does almost 1 level. Right, and then it should start ramping up as we get lower and lower. Yeah, so you can see the bar dwindling more and more. Oh, we actually took damage from that and healed. So essentially, as long as you have levels and experience, it's like you have invincibility. Okay, and then as soon as you run out of experience, then you're going to run into trouble. So I think that's good, because it means you can convert all your experience into a bubble, if you will, right? So think of it in PvP, for instance. The other thing is it's also chance, so it's not always going to trigger every time you take damage unless you have max luck. But yeah, in terms of PvP, you could, you know, just stack, level up to 60 or something, and then outlast your opponent that way. Could be fun, right? all these different interactions. We'll go over the models one more time for anyone interested. So again, we have the Enchanted Sword. I should probably change it from Enchanted to label it as something else, right? Something to do with experience a little bit better. Because Enchanted in this, we probably think of the runes and we think of like purple colors. But yeah, so we have the sword, we have the axe, we have the hoe, pickaxe, shovel, and claw. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.